not my ideas, but they spoke to me. So the question is that when we're approaching Purim,
You
hear me?
You have a spider.
Kosher.
Ravinsk. What does it mean to be in a state of hester panim? Phoenix, Arizona.
Nice, Tucson.
Chaim to the shluchim in Tucson.
Tucson, yes.
Let's go.
Chaim Tucson.
Chaim Tucson.
Chaim.
Email address?
I just texted it to him, guys. You can please
Got the source.
Yo, what's your email address?
Yeah.
Yeah, but this will become in clear form.
Well, I got it. I got the text from Gillers. We're good.
Ooh.
Time.
The camera's the same on these phones.
I'm using a PDF thing,
Whoa! Send that over.
Alright, wait 2 more minutes.
Enjoy Giller's sources.
Plug this in?
Forgot about that.
You guys just let me know when you're ready.
Okay, t-shirt. Rowdy class.
Yeah. Rolling.
Still good.
Chaim.
Still good.
Hashem Yichud Kuch B'Rikush Chidei Achad Hashem Yud Kevod Ken Yichud Hashem Kol Yisrael. The Maisa, we're talking about what it means to be in a state of hester panim. That things aren't so clear to us anymore. How can we understand our environment over here, our role in the hester panim? What does it mean a little bit, the idea, Yeridas Hadoros, which people have used that term, it's like a weird term, Yeridas Hadoros, that there's no more revealed tzaddikim. We just had some. We had the Lubavitcher, we had the Baba Sali. Rabbi Shlomo was a little bit revealed, but right now, not so much. And then I also want to deal with the question of what it means in the Gemara when it says, when there's this common theme of not depending on miracles. Why don't we depend on miracles? Why can't we just enjoy miracles? A lot of the Tanaim and Amorim didn't want to let that be like a major part of the avoda. They were always shying away from miracles. And of course, what does it mean to love, baby? What does it mean to love? So let's start with the only place to start, and that's creation. So in Likutei Torah by the Alter Rebbe, in Rosh Hashanah, Tikva Chodesh Shofar, he's talking about just the basic ideas. And tonight, I'm just going to talk about basic ideas. I don't understand complex ideas, but we're talking over here in this first source about the basic idea of tzimtzum. So if you see, it's like it's arrowed off over there on the first one. Before the creation of the world, Hashem was alone. It was just His name that existed, nothing else. What did He do in order to create the existence, the possibility for creations outside of Himself? He was mitzamtzem Himself. He concealed His light and His shefa, which was infinite, that it should only be a giloy of malchus. Shemigiloi malchus oisbarach levad hu shechayim kayim b'kayamim kol ha'olamos al yanim b'tachtona. It was like, through this idea of tzimtzum, Hashem was able to create the world through the midah of malchus. So what's the idea of malchus? Why davka? Why are we dealing with the midah of malchus? So over here in Chassidus Mevaeres, which is source number 2, it's an interesting concept that comes out. And that is that, what is a king? A king is someone who rules over a people. A people, in order for there to be a rulership, the king must exist independently from those who he rules. So it says in Chassidus Mevaeres that it was Allah B'Tzono to be melech. He wanted to become a king. So what's the corollary? What's the automatic thing that must happen in order for there to be a king? There must be an am, and we know the concept, or we know the idea of ein melech below am, that there has to be a nation that the king has to rule over. And if a king is in a desert, with no one around, then he can't be a king because there's no one to rule over. So let's look over here in the Chassidus verse at the top. What's the idea of tzimtzum? Shetisgala midas malchus yisbarach at the very top. Perush midas malchus he kolcho yisbarach shemenu nivraim kol ha'olam nivraim shemizeh gufa muvan shegilui malchus yisbarach dorish tzimtzum behelem ha'ein sof. That gilui malchus yisbarach, whatever exactly that is, that we coronate Hashem as king, that we allow Hashem to rule our lives. What does that require? It requires him to be removed from the picture. That the Ein Sof must be concealed. Shari Kozman Shari Ein Sof who begilo Ein Shem Efsharis when it says Makom Nivram Mugbalan, that all the time that that Malchus is begiloi, there's no possibility, there's no Nesinas Makom. And Nesinas Makom is a really interesting term that he uses. I don't think that the Alter Rebbe uses it. He might. But there's no possibility to give space for us to exist. He had to make space, which required him to remove himself so that there was space left over for us. And then if you see the underlines, right? We talked about that. And then skip down to that exclamation point. So it's interesting. It's already like a chizik for me, at least, that in order for there to be a working relationship where we are part of this situation of God and man, he must be concealed. Does that make sense? This idea?
Can I get that again?
That we're talking about that in order for there to be this relationship of Melech and Am, the Melech must rule over an Am. That means the Am must be separate from the Melech. And in our process of coronating Hashem as king, we are drifting further and further apart, but the relationship is only getting stronger. That the more Helim there is, according to the Alter Rebbe, the more Giloi Malchus there is. Because Giloi Malchus requires Helim Ein Sof. The only way we can exist as a Zolas, as the Am, is if we're independent. Because the Melech must rule over people who subscribe to his rulership. If we are him, then there is no rulership. It's just him. The more we drift apart, the further, almost the stronger the relationship gets. To me, that's a trip.
So how does that work?
I'll pee like what?
I think like Marshall, the closer you are to the palace, the more you see the king, so the less you're enamored by the king per se. Or if he's actually that exalted, you're more. The farther away you are, the more like Meshuggah you are about the king, because you have no idea what he actually does. You just know about his name and about who he is.
So we're going to talk about
mythology, like mythical status type thing.
The question that you're asking is like what we're going to deal with throughout the whole show. What's this relationship of? How could it be? This is a paradox.
It's like the further.
I was making sure that I was.
Yeah, you got it. I'm sorry, and I should have already alluded to the question. And the question is that's paradoxical. How could that possibly be? Right? Everybody has the question. It's paradoxical that Hashem that relationship gets stronger as we drift further apart. That's crazy, but it's awesome. Eric from. From?
No.
Eric from.
I mean, with Slova, yeah.
He grew up from. I don't think he was always from, but he was. It's hard for me to like classify them as one thing, but so I'll just read from his Wikipedia page. Eric Seligman from 1900 to 1980 was a German social psychologist, psychoanalyst, sociologist, humanistic philosopher, and democratic socialist. He was associated with that. He was everything. He is my rebel, not my only rebel, but he's one of my rebels. He's the man. He's really, for the purposes of our show, we can think of him as a psychoanalyst. So he talks about an interesting concept. That is that we as people, forget the whole Malchus thing for a second. Let's just go to the next source. we as people are trying to find our relationship with the world. We're trying to find out how do we fit in it. How can we relate positively to it? It's almost a question you have to ask yourself every day. How can I relate positively to my surroundings? And there's a couple ways that this happens. The ideal that he says that how it happens is this spontaneous ability to relate to the world as I am myself. Don't worry about that for now, but what he talks about in depth is that some people, many people, probably all of us to some extent, the way that we overcome our separateness from the world, and if you don't feel the separateness, you probably will at some point, but
meaning that we're like alone in our.
Yeah, I guess I have to flesh this out. That like,
Saying human.
how about take for Lamashal, human beings, individuals. I'm talking about individuals. I'm talking about our private lives. That we as individuals take, for example, when you graduate from college or when you're choosing a major, even you're trying to figure out, gee, what can I do here in this world? Well, we're trying to say, like, who am I? How do I figure out within the myriad of million ways that I could be in this world, like, what do I do? And that's like a big question. So and it's like very overwhelming. Many people get overwhelmed. So how do they overcome that? A lot of people just do what's easy, what seems easy, which is like, do what everybody's saying to do. Just join a big company, make money, and you'll be able to pay for school. It'll all be fine. But like as we see by Snoop Dogg's son, just listening to what your dad is telling you to do doesn't always bring the etzem of happiness. So the question is, how do we? It's just recognizing that fear, that the world is big. I don't know my place in it. So what should I do now? Some people end up, like we said, they just follow an opinion of another. And Fromm talks about this idea that what's really happening is that people try to fuse themselves with another power in the hopes to acquire that power. I have personal experience that, I think part of the reason I was proud to say that I worked at Morgan Stanley when I did was because this was a powerful company. And when I said the words Morgan Stanley to another person, I'm already like linked up somehow magically with this magic power of Morgan Stanley. And I'm safe, so to speak. And it's this false acquisition of power, and it's really coming from this masochistic striving Fromm talks about, that there's two aspects. It's either sadism or masochism. That we take an abusive relationship, for example. A husband who's abusive, he will often say that he's in love with his woman, and he's just doing what he knows is best for the woman. He loves her though, but he's completely consuming her. So Fromm will say, why is he consuming this person? Why does he have to own his wife? The reason is because he feels more powerful if he's controlling someone. He feels amplified, that the world that was huge now looks a tiny bit smaller because I'm controlling another aspect. It's like this kind of, I'm eating more, so I'm bigger. And then masochism is a similar idea, where it's a little bit less subtle, that by the masochist, you take the woman in the relationship. So what's her thinking? Why is she staying in an abusive relationship with her husband? She wants to dissolve herself in the larger power so that she gives up her individuality in order to feel safer. That make sense?
Bittul.
Yeah, depending on what you mean by bittul. But yeah, she's giving herself up. In a negative sense, though, she's becoming a slave.
Right.
So it's an unfortunate reality. Like, why? It's like it's not the ideal manifestation of her relationship to the world, right? She's so scared of everything that she just dissolves herself. And now I'm taking care of. I'm safe.
In terms of the easiness that you were talking about, does Fromm equate them? Like they're both taking an equally easy way out of facing the world and the self by, in a way, consuming more power. So I feel like I'm shrinking the world, and
I think Fromm would say that neither is going to be easy. At the end of the day, for the masochist and the sadist, there's extreme
I don't
suffering.
mean that it's easy for the parties involved.
Okay.
I mean that they're both taking an equal.
They're two separate.
Yeah.
Like there's an equal possibility that I'll take either one.
Or even qualitatively.
It depends on the character. It depends on the individual, the upbringing of the individual. Like, what's this person going to choose? Basically, is what you're asking. Like,
well, if he's a sadist and he's a masochist,
right?
So, is there any like quantitative difference to them? Or qualitative?
Oh.
Or are they the same thing? They're two different
Very good
expressions,
question.
or they're
Very good question.
They're equal, or they're
very
different?
good question. He would say that it's the same expression of this powerlessness, of this need to overcome the anxiety of being separate. That the sadist acts out of his quest for power, and the masochist acts out of this quest to give up the power. It's the same idea of I need to dissolve, I have anxiety about facing the world, and I have a problem with being an individual. I must give up my freedom, or I must dissolve someone else's freedom within myself so that I feel more powerful. So it's pretty tripped out.
So it's a matter of what role you're placed in.
Yeah. It depends largely on the individual who that person is.
It's just like it's individuating everything. Meaning, you'll be a sadist, he'll be a masochist, he'll be a this-ist, he'll be a that-ist. Each one has their own expression and their own way of relating to something, but the power with which they do it is the same. Meaning, she'll dissolve herself as much as he'll.
Oh, is that what you're asking? Okay.
Yeah.
It's hard to quantify.
I don't know, but I'm saying like it's just they eat. His way of dealing with it is
It's a
to
different
consume, and her way of dealing with
Exactly,
it is to
and they're dealing with the same problem, and Fromm exactly will say that. He'll say it's a symbiotic relationship, that both are, at the end of the day, they're fulfilling each other's needs, because the masochist is fulfilling the sadist needs to acquire the power, and the sadist is fulfilling the masochist needs, because the sadist needs someone to consume. What's a better way to deal with this? Like, how, I guess, at the end of the day, if that's not love, if masochism is not love, and you've probably heard it said before, at least on a movie or some TV show, like, as I said before, the masochist thinks that she's in love with the guy because, like, oh, well, he's a really great guy and I love him and he's taking care of me, blah, blah, blah. It's not love. So the question is, what is love?
What is love?
What is
Maybe don't hurt me. Don't hurt me.
Don't hurt me. No more. Love is a gewalt, according to Fromm. Love, according to Fromm, is allowing you to exist as you are, separate from me. And I'm actively interested in the cultivation of your unique personality, regardless of who I am. I don't need you. I love you, though, and you should be you, basically. And we're gonna explore this idea. What does this mean? Let's look in source 3, which is Fromm's Escape from Freedom. In the brackets, love is the foremost component of such spontaneity. Don't worry about that. Not love as the dissolution of the self in another person. Not love as the possession of another person. That's the masochist and the sadist. But love as spontaneous affirmation of others, as the union of the individual with others on the basis of the preservation of the individual self. The dynamic quality of love lies in this very polarity, that it springs from the need of overcoming separateness, that it leads to oneness, and yet that individuality is not eliminated. So it speaks for itself, really. Like, Taka, love is when I don't need to influence you with my ideas. You are you, I am me. And I love you for being you, and I'm actively interested in the growth of you based on who you are. Let's look at source 4. If we mean by love the passionate affirmation and active relatedness to the essence of a particular person, if we mean by it the union with another person on the basis of the independence and integrity of the two persons involved, then masochism and love are opposites. Love is based on equality and freedom. Masochism is not based on the independence and integrity of the two people involved. Masochism is, I'm not free. I don't want to be free. I want to dissolve myself within you. You call the shots. You're the abuser. Just take me because I can't deal with my life. Question?
Kept trying this muscle.
Sure.
Check 2 puzzle pieces. And both of them see the puzzle from outside and appreciate the need for both pieces to complete the puzzle.
Yeah, you can say that.
But I think
But no.
it's different because you're focusing. It would be the 2 puzzle pieces looking at each other, not necessarily looking at the entirety of the puzzle, or at least yet. It's what I just said.
Oh, okay, fine.
It's like seeing
It's
that.
like
being
seeing the connection point. Like
you're not necessarily. You're
Only
a
two
piece
pieces,
separate and
two-piece
distinct from my
puzzle.
piece.
It's a 2-piece puzzle. Yeah.
Two-piece puzzle.
Yeah, it's right.
They're
You're not
like
seeing
talking to each
outside.
other.
You're seeing right. Just those.
Yeah.
Which is more because then,
It's a good
then it gets
question.
into then it gets into the masochism. If it's dissolving into another, then the puzzle is dissolving. If it's both
Right.
appreciating
That's a good
2
point.
separate pieces, then it's
Then you have a lacking in the whole puzzle, right? So we're going to talk about that later then.
With regards to the first source,
Yeah.
the first 2 sources, how does
Okay, so I'm gonna bring it around right now. Let's just talk about respect real quick. Respect, man. Respect, my conglomerate.
R-E-S-P-K.
So, respect, Fromm sees respect as an integral part of love. What is respect? Respect thus implies the absence of exploitation. It's in the middle of the paragraph. I want the loved person to grow and unfold for his own sake and in his own ways, and not for the purpose of serving me. If I love the other person, I feel one with him or her, but with him as he is, not as I need him to be as an object for my use. It is clear that respect is possible only if I have achieved independence, if I can stand and walk without needing crutches. Okay, so the second element of what we're talking about here is that what's the prerequisite for loving someone? What's the prerequisite for allowing someone else to exist on their own without me intruding? Okay, and we're talking about various examples here. It could be like an employer and an employee. That the employee dissolves himself in the employer. He just follows his commands. He wants to be like him, even though he might not even have the same values if he really asked himself deeply. Or an abusive marriage, or it's even like between us as friends. When I try to impose my idea on you, I have a certain way of looking at the issue that we're arguing about, and I won't rest until I force my stuff down your throat. That's like sadistic. You're not allowing that person to stand alone. And what's the ikr though? You can't stand and walk without needing your own crutches. You are trying to affirm your own idea by forcing your friend to believe it too. Okay, that's fine. But seriously, like, it's interesting to think about. I don't know, it speaks to me personally. Like, a lot of times we're excited about an idea, so let's say we're arguing about this idea with a friend, like, we can't, like, let's say he has a different perspective on it. We have, like, this, like, hang up, like, we need to get it out and, like, make him come around something a little bit to what we're saying, right? But, like, why not just, like, not need to influence him? He might be completely different. We have no idea, like, what he's coming from in this respect. So, that's respect. To tie back into the Malchus idea, and we're moving like a little too slowly.
Respect for Fromm is like an outgrowth of love.
Absolutely, 100%.
It's a prerequisite.
It's a prerequisite.
Prerequisite or synonymous that I am allowing you to stand on your own, and I respect you for who you are, regardless of what I am. You are you. I am me. That was what the cuts. It always reminded me of the cuts here. If I am I because I am I, and you are you because you are you, then I am I and you are you. But if I am I because you are you, and you are you because I am I, then I'm not I and I'm not you, because I'm defining my reality based off of who you are. And Jay-Z has similar lyrics. He says, Jay-Z says, like, I'm not going to be who I am because of who you're not. Like, that's like a low level, according to Jay-Z. But by Malchus, Hashem, in creating the world, Lahavdil, I love it. There should be a separation between the Alter Rebbe and Eric Fromm, and then Just wherever there should be an obvious break, yeah, just put the break in. Is that lahavdils? Everyone can put the lahavdils wherever they want. You know what I'm talking about? Okay, bear with me, Ravinsky. Sorry, we're moving way too slow.
in Arizona here.
Okay, so by Malchus.
Time moves slower there.
Okay, Midas Malchus. Midas Malchus is in the creation of the world. When Hashem was mitzamtzim himself to create the world, what did he do? He did this very act of love, which Franz is speaking about possibly, that he allowed, he removed himself. He was mitzamtzim himself for nesinas makom, giving a place for the Zolas to exist. That was the affirmation of the existence of that which he created, meaning giving space to them to exist was gufa, like this love that we're talking about, right? That the only way that I can allow you to exist is if I remove myself, my own, like what I need out of the situation. I allow you to exist on your own as an independent, free-thinking individual with free choice. And now you have that ability to exist independently and create your own opinions without my needing to force anything upon you. I'm removing myself, I'm contracting myself. And that's what we could do. We could do this in conversations with our friends on a daily basis. I could say, okay, you're telling me about something that I don't at first glance relate to. Let me be mitzamtein myself and give you nesinas makom to like express this idea that you're expressing without my judging you, or without my needing to like shoot you down or bring my own stuff in. That's like a bechina of creation, when you allow someone to exist like that and express themselves without you. It's just him. So just listen. So that's a little bit what it reminded me of in Malchus. And then I was thinking a little bit that by Mitzrayim, when we were going out of Mitzrayim, we know the famous difference between Kabbalah Satira by Egypt and by Purim, that what happened by Mitzrayim. Well, who were we in Mitzrayim? We were slaves. We were dissolved in another nation. We didn't have the ability to choose for ourselves. We weren't free. Definitely not free, in any sense of the word. So we come out of Mitzrayim, and then we go to get the Torah, and the Torah is given to us kafar aleim har kigigis, through this like forceful way. It was be'arnis, right? So the Gemara in Shabbos Peiches that Reb Avdimi bar Chama bar Chasim Malamed shekafar HaKadosh Baruch Hu Esa har kigigis v'amalehem im atem mekablim atayra mutav bilav. If you don't accept the Torah, I'm gonna just drop the mountain on you. So what is that? How is that like a manifestation of love? Doesn't sound like love to me. That sounds like an abusive relationship. So, and it's interesting also. Like I was thinking that we said Na'aseh v'nishma. My sister helped me realize this. That like we said Na'aseh v'nishma by Har Sinai. Na'aseh v'nishma is a gewalt, right? But in one aspect, Na'aseh v'nishma is like, what? Like, I'm taking this on before I understand it? Who does that? Like, you go to like buy a new car, and you just buy it without looking at the specs. Show me the Carfax. Oh, like, really? I'm not just going to buy this? Na'aseh v'nishma, in a certain aspect, I think, was this masochistic acceptance of the Torah. That we just were like, listen, we've been slaves for 400 years, just give us something where we can exist. We just want to exist, we just want to be alive at the bare bones of what that means. So we took on the Torah, be'anis, and then only by Purim did the Gemara says we had to like re-accept it, because it wasn't the real deal by Har Sinai, right? So we re-accepted it from a mitoch hester panim on Purim. That's the Bechin of Malchus, and we know that in the Megillah, Hashem is only revealed in Shem Malchus by HaMelech. He doesn't even say his name, which is like a hester panim, that's the Tzimtzum. And we only know Hashem by HaMelech, because Megillah is in this Bechin of Midas HaMelech, which is Nesinas Makom, the Zolas to exist and to accept for himself what he thinks he should accept. So we were able to like mamish develop this aspect of actual love by Purim, possibly.
Also, the ultimate rectification is we were even more dissolved in the Purim miracle, because even after the miracle, the next day we had to send in our tax form, tax trash.
Davka.
So it had to be from that place. Mitzrayim, we were free. We were slaves, but we wanted to accept it, but we were free. We were our own people. In Purim, it was like the ultimate scenario of like rectifying all that was seemingly wrong, going to Frown
Right.
and everywhere.
Right, that even in that crazy hester panim, that when all the chips seem to say like we are not free, or we're not who we should be, that's where we are like Makabel Torah, right?
Yeah, it was like it was that love in a situation where like Achshverosh was imposing his will on us,
Right.
and we were just like
Okay.
subservient to him. But within that, we found a place for like that from love
Yeah,
between us and God.
we were free.
Yeah, we didn't like.
Even Achashverosh, we weren't even like.
But who cared? Like we didn't care that he was imposing his will, because ultimately, by Mitzrayim, the master-slave relationship was us and God.
Right.
But here it was us and Achshverosh.
Okay.
Which created this, allowed us to create that space for like us and God to have.
Yeah.
We didn't care about.
And we have that today. Like we have that relationship where we're dealing with a malchus that's not our own, right? So like this is the ultimate hester panim where like we think we're guided by. I don't know if this is what you're saying, but hopefully it is, and then we'll move on. That even it's hard for me to focus also on questions. That even we took this place of where everything is ruled by everything that seems to be not God. If you don't accept the Torah there, that's the ultimate free choice of. I should be saying everything, accepting everything else, but I'm doubting in this place. I'm accepting the Torah. That's a free will choice in my books. So just really quickly, I was thinking like it's interesting in the Gemara that we don't really rely on miracles. It's a little frustrating for me sometimes. Like miracles are awesome, just like rock them all the time. A good story over here by Reb Adam Gidding that Rav Huna had this this case of wine stuck in a dilapidated house. He was afraid it was going to collapse. He wanted to get the wine out, so he brings over Reb Adam Gidding, who he knows has mad zechus, and he brings him into the house, so that and how does he bring him into the house, Taka? He engages him in a Torah conversation so that he brings him in, so that he'll come. He lures him in with Torah. They're talking Torah. He grabs the wine. They leave the house. The second they leave, the house collapses. Rav Adam Gidding got very upset when he realized what Rav Huna was doing. He was pissed off. Why? Gemara says, "Savar like Yah the Amar Rabbi Yani le'olam al yamod adam makom sakana v'yomer oisim lo nes shama ein oisim lo nes v'imtim salomar oisim lo nes menachem lo mizchuyusav." So what does it mean menachem lo mizchuyusav? That if we rely on a nes, so we're losing out on our own merits. Menachem means it's lowered. His zechuyus are lowered. So why is it that if we rely on a nes or we get saved through a nes, so we're losing out somehow? So I think it's this inyan that we're talking about, that there's one level of accepting the Torah b'ones. There's one level of operating in your life where everything is given to you. There's one level of life where I'm not necessarily making all the choices, but I'm still doing okay. That's not the ultimate level, though. The ultimate level is learning how to stand alone in the hester panim, accepting the Torah, and moving on. And in the case of Avad Bar Ava, if you're not depending on a nes, and I think the reason that they were so maybe they were a little apprehensive as to living with nisim is because it's not them. Like they're not accepting the Torah in that way on their own. It's being given. It's like a simple construct. Like the miracles come in, and I'm having a great life. But like that's not the tachas. The tachas is to be in the place of hester panim, where nothing is being done for you at all. And in that place, you learn to live as yourself. And it's also this idea of love that you recognize the fact that your relationship with God is one where He's allowing you and giving you the abilities and the tools to live alone without His direct and open help. And He'll give you signs along the way for sure. But comes a time in life, and for me it was sometime after college, where it was like, all right, I guess I need to take my life into my hands. And that's a lifelong avoda that we're all working on. Learning how to take life into your own hands and operate without the explicit crutch of a nace, of your parents, of someone who you are dominating, etc., etc., etc. That's the idea of Nisim, of not relying on Nisim, learning how to stand alone. So that's Aleph. Aleph is of this whole shir. Aleph is that we're living in a place of hester panim, and that there's a certain mila, and it's actually integral to the definition of love, that living alone by yourself is like an ultimate level. And learning how to separate yourself from that which gave you original security, that's like a gewalt. So it reminded me, like, so how do you deal with this idea of being alone, right? If we're kind of accepting the idea that Hashem is in this state of hester panim, so what do we do now? I'm sorry if it's going. How long ago?
You're good.
Couple comments.
Keep going.
So am I said.
Whenever you're done.
We should turn it into it.
Yeah.
You say this thing.
Isaac, is that heady for you?
We'll find the answer.
That's the proud person's going to have.
Oh. Sorry. Eddie, come here.
Puppy is massive like that.
It's well. Reminds me
Sometimes Michelle. So let's say you haven't been following up till now, the whole share. That's fine. The only thing you need to know at this point is that it's a gewalt to be independent. And it's a gewalt to not rely on Hashem for miracles. And it's a gewalt that there's no tzaddikim begiloi also. Like I've gotten frustrated also, like, number one, there's no tzaddikim. Even the tzaddikim that exist, we can't even talk to them. Like we get in there, they give us whatever they give us for like a second, and then it's over. Bracha v'atzlacha.
Thanks, bro.
Yeah, thanks, man. Now I
You don't know that scene.
now I can tackle like everything that I've been going through. Thank you. That's tough.
That's what I needed.
And I heard someone complaining about this recently, but the thought that I had at that time was there's a certain gewalt about being alone. There's a certain like empowerment that comes along with, gee, no one's out here to help me. Now it's on me. So where am I going to find my inspiration? How am I going to live? I think that the ikar of this is that we have to learn how to live alone. We have to learn how to get what we want from the world, and we can find that. It comes with trusting ourselves and experiencing our experiences for what they are, and learning how to develop that vision of and that process, that ability to live, to experience our experience, and learn from it and grow from it. So I was always reminded of this. I wasn't always reminded of it, but Rav Kook says over here. I pulled this off of Rav Braun's blog. This is like a crazy Rav Kook. So let's just read together in English. Contemplation of the divine crowns all of life, without distinguishing between lofty and lowly. As it embraces rational thought and purifies it, so does it exalt and enrich the imagination. It refines the will just as it empowers abilities. The need to think about God, however, is a drastic descent and necessary to man only as a therapy. Atheism is an unfavorable preparation to the greatest level, when there will no longer be a need to think about divinity, for life itself will be the light of God. Unreal. Like what a crazy, crazy Crazy paragraph. So I don't profess to understand what this means, and I didn't read the whole piece. But it reminded me of this paragraph. So let's just like judge this paragraph as if it stood alone. And what it seems to be is like there's a level to depending on Hashem. There's a level to like grasping the highest concepts. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to experience Hashem is to live in the moment with life itself. And on a day-to-day basis, getting out of bed and looking for Hashem. And through all the experiences, trying to find, like, what is it that he's trying to tell me? Who am I? What, blah, 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 blah. Life itself is going to be the light of God. And I think it's part of, like, living alone. Life itself can be very powerful. And Ralph Waldo Emerson, in the next source.
You think it means like living Amish alone, or like alone with just your life, whatever that is? Like alone as in like singular individual, or alone as in like whatever I'm doing, that's my life. It involves 12 other people. That in itself is individuality. My existence with 12 other people and 3 jobs and etc.
Right. I think it's everything. It's you take yourself from this moment on in your life. Everything that exists now in your life. That is that's the spread that you're given to learn from. That's what you have. It could be 100 million people. It could be no one. It could be 4 jobs. It could be 1 job. It could be 1 wife, no wife, 15 kids. Everything that exists now is there for you to be a student for it. Does that answer your question? It's anything. No, Chas v'Shalom shouldn't be alone. That's not like what we believe. It should be the whole life. Your whole life. Everything in life, and stop ignoring any aspect. Pay attention to everything. Learn what's more important to like pay attention to, and decide like this is more important than this. But everything, like you wake up, you have no idea what's even going to happen that day. Like take it all. And like I think when you start to do that, you start to experience a little bit like I don't really know, but it'd be cool. So Emerson was the head of the Transcendentalist movement in the 19th century. He wrote a lot of good stuff. One thing that he wrote is an essay called Self-Reliance, and that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about self-reliance. We're talking about what it is to exist, like as an individual. So I didn't have a specific part. Let's just read a couple lines here. And this is a cool idea, even isolated. Even if you have no idea what's happening in the Chabur so far, just you can check this out. It's cool. I read.
Tune in now.
No, it's like you could just like cut this out of the thing. It's just a nice idea. I read the other day some verses written by an eminent painter, which were original and non-conventional. The soul always hears an admonition in such lines. Let the subject be what it may. The sentiment they instill is of more value than any thought they may contain. To believe your own thought, to believe that what is true for you in your private heart is true for all men, that is genius.
Yeah.
I start from the beginning.
6th line, 4th word, speak.
Rashi's script.
Speak your latent conviction, and it shall be the universal sense, for the inmost in due times become the outmost. And our first thought is rendered back to us by the trumpets of the last judgment. Let's just get down to the underlines. A man should learn to detect and watch that gleam of light which flashes across his mind from within, more than the luster of the firmament of bards and sages. Yet he dismisses without notice his thought, because it is his. In every work of genius, we recognize our own rejected thoughts. They come back to us with a certain alienated majesty. Great works of art have no more affecting lesson than us. No more affecting lesson for us than this. They teach us to abide by our spontaneous impression with good-humored inflexibility than most, when the whole cry of voices is on the other side. Else tomorrow a stranger will say with masterly good sense precisely what we have thought and felt all the time, and we shall be forced to take with shame our own opinion from another. And the important thing is that they teach us to abide by our spontaneous impression. It's like there's this level of trusting your impression of things. You see something happen in the course of your day, like relate to it, just experience it. Trust it that you are the master of what you think is happening in your life. No one else. That's all that should matter. And then just one more line over there on the second paragraph, that underlined line is, the eye was placed where one ray should fall, that it might testify of that particular ray. And what's so crazy is what he says is that he dismisses without notice his thought because it is his. Like we have this kind of tendency to just like reject our own thoughts. Like we know what's good. We know what's good with hester panim. Trust it. Hopefully we'll be done soon. Just a couple more sources, yeah?
Yeah, we did.
We ran the budget.
One more.
Yeah.
There you go.
You're looking another 20
You're doing
minutes.
great.
Okay. Okay.
I'm a beer.
I guess what I would say if you Taki gave me another minute, what I would say.
Whoa.
We didn't say a full minute.
I guess also I don't know. I think a lot of things that we struggle with today is that can we say what we think without calculating the approval or non-approval of the listener? I think everyone should ask themselves that question. Can we say what we think without calculating what the other person could think? I think
I need to share this.
it could be just me.
I had it today.
Yeah.
Not just
So
you.
I was sitting in my kitchen. I was like booting up to go out.
Oh,
I was like talking to myself, just straight up.
nice.
And I was like thinking, wow, talking to yourself is only crazy when someone else is around. If no one else is around, then like you're trying to get to know yourself via yourself. But if someone else is around, then talking to yourself is a little weird because you're trying to get to know yourself via someone else.
Right.
You want to know who you are in respect to other people. So like I was thinking about the idea of like talking to yourself and like, is it crazy? Is it not crazy? I thought it was crazy. You know what I'm saying?
That's a good
I've
spot.
seen a lot of crazy movies lately. I'm not sure what's real, what's not. But notwithstanding, I think that's the thought I had.
It's a really interesting thing because like sometimes you'll be hanging out with some people and you're like at least 25% of you or whatever percent it is, you're defining your experience based like through the avenue of what they're experiencing. That's already like a limitation of your individuality.
Isn't it important to recognize the other people you're around and
Yes,
relate?
and we're going to talk about how to do that.
Yeah, okay.
We're talking about how to do that.
Also, to what you said, you can have those same thoughts in some way. You just don't speak it out loud. They're just in your head.
True, but meaning you're not speaking. You're not like voicing them to yourself.
Correct.
Meaning when you're alone, you can talk to them because like no one's around. No one's gonna think you're crazy. But then I took it like a further. I was like, I'm getting to know myself by taking my thoughts and bringing them out into the open. But when other people are around and you talk to yourself, that's when you're like, or in certain extremes, that's when you're considered crazy. You know, because then you're supposed to be knowing yourself via other people. You know, whether that's true or not is a different story. But
Yeah, but also if you're not talking to yourself just because other people are around, then you're also not being true to yourself.
not really.
You're just subscribing to the management.
No, but like we live in a world that there's like certain constructs. You don't revert to like essence and essentiality.
If you like have a thought to like go kill someone, you're not going to act on that. Like there are limits to.
Yeah, but that's the extreme case of.
I know, but I think it's important.
I like sprinkled cookies. You know.
Right.
The extreme of that, saying it out loud, is I want to kill killers. Bring all that beer.
Sorry.
You're talking about like the value of like different thoughts, right? You're talking about the relative value of different
My
thoughts.
thing on tape is
Oh, that guy played it.
is going.
Anything else?
You're back.
Yeah, I think we're dealing less with like random thoughts. I think we're dealing less with random thoughts that people might think are crazy. We're talking about more like,
Yeah.
let's say, even the most extreme example, I guess, would be like, let's say there's a pressing issue that we're talking about. What do I think about this? And am I like inhibiting my own opinion because I'm afraid of what they're gonna think? Random thoughts, like you can't prevent that. Right? Okay. Alright, so then there's kind of 2 points that we hit. The first one is that we stand alone. That was like Derech HaMalchus, the Midas HaMalchus of Hashem, giving us a place to exist. That was like what Fromm was saying about love, that love is the ability to allow one to exist as he is without me needing to kind of insert myself into him. That was like this idea of like, we stand alone. We should stand alone. That's a good thing. Then we talked about this idea of what does it mean to stand alone and how do we deal with that? And we're talking about this idea of experiencing life for what it is. Life itself is the light of God. And Emerson is talking about trusting your opinion, standing alone and trusting yourself to stand alone because I think we talk about the power. Question is, when we're talking about an idea of love or a relationship, ultimately that's a union. That's 2 people existing together. We're not supposed to be all hermits living in like different zones, right? Love is the affirmation of another's existence independent of you, but it's also a union, right? Love is a union. So how do we understand that? And we know, and like Reb Nachman has that awesome Torah in Kaf Vav, Moshe Nigash al Arafel Asher Shama Elokim, that Moshe received the Torah dafka from the cloud of Hashem. That's the Torah came from this place of hester panim, but that was where Hashem was. So what's this aspect on the one hand between man and man of I stand alone, but how do I relate to you? How do I then kind of forge this union? And between us and God, He gave us the place to exist alone through tzimtzum, etc. How does this become like a relationship between me and God, where it's an active, loving relationship, where I'm not just separate from Him? So my sister, Shetichya, she turned me on to the source in Likutei Halachos from Rav Nachman, from Rav Nasim Basli. Kilai Behema Halacha Daled.
It's already awesome. Your sister.
She knows way more
And then it's
about
from
everything than me. Yeah, Kilai Behema. Kilai Behema. Kilai Behema.
On the farm sheet.
It's going to come so
It's
beautifully
never
now.
going to be from your top 150 choices.
Yeah, right?
That should be it.
It's like, when was she learning that? Just like busted it out one day, like, it's on her head.
Guys, on the farm sheet will be experiencing that day.
You know that
No,
kind of
that's the crazy thing. On the farm yeshiva, you'll be going to like some halacha that you're like, I was going to get away from this.
Kilai Behema.
Brings you back.
I'm
You're not
heading home.
going to learn a single kilai behema halacha. Nothing in the farm yeshiva.
It's going to be intense.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's for sure. So we're talking about. So the question is, I guess, like, what prevents us? What might be one of the main things that prevents us from living as ourselves spontaneously, individually? What is it? Like, why can't we just like do it? You know, it's like, shit. Like, come on. I think at the end of the day, deeply within us, unfortunately, we have this false belief that we don't really believe in this. That really there is only a couple ways to serve Hashem, and really there is only a couple ways to say a joke. There should only be 3 or 4 opinions about this painting, and this movie we should rely on Rotten Tomatoes. like about what they say. Like we don't really. I think we have a problem with entertaining the possibility that there are millions of opinions, all valid. Not only all valid, but all like interesting. Interesting. We need to like kind of start believing that there are differences between people that are myriad in a million. Like I don't know, you take like me and Keith Friedman. Like me and Friedman, like we're both Orthodox, we both went to Rashid, we both do this, that, and the other thing, right? Like we should have the same opinions pretty much about everything, right? Right? Like what should be so complicated? But I think what all of these people are trying to tell us to do is realize that we could be vastly different. We could be vastly different. And if we were to really experience our lives individually and express ourselves spontaneously, we would notice that we are vastly different.
But it's almost like the closer we are, the more different we are. You know, like we have all those similarities, but we're very different in a lot of what
in a
makes
lot
us
of
us.
maybe more subtle ways.
What makes us us? We're very different, but we have all these exterior
Exterior
similarities.
is very similar, right? And if me and you were schmoozing at a party, and some chick came over and introduced herself, she would think like, oh yeah, they both went to Ray shit, you know. And on the exterior, Adam, both named Adam.
There's Adam 1, Adam 2.
One, Adam 2.
Who are you?
She would like, she wouldn't even bother to do the research though. Like, but if she did, or if we allowed ourselves to express ourselves, it's possible that we might show her two completely different worlds. And I always wonder, I really wonder, what would a world be like if everyone was, to some degree, really embracing their own uniqueness and peculiarity and individuality? What would the subway be like if everyone was just mamish alive with who they are? It would probably be a wild, awesome place.
Sometimes you see it late at night.
Sometimes you see it late at night on drugs and alcohol.
Yeah. We can turn on it very easily.
You could end up dead.
You hope you're dead.
And you get on a subway like
Come rush.
at like rush hour, like 150 people in one cart. Like who knows? Like if they were really, well, I guess they're all tired. I don't know. But I don't know. I just wonder what the world would be like, especially in New York City, if everyone was really like themselves. It'd be freaking crazy and awesome. I think. Imagine like the different business ideas. It'd be, I don't know. Whatever. What?
I was just saying, what if you put on slow-mo?
You want one more? I'm talking about like, yeah, fast forwarding maybe. Anyway, sorry.
I guess we see things differently.
Best.
Well, what am I talking about? I guess I'm talking about, I don't know if it's like a speed thing. Anyway, Rav Nosson has this idea.
Yeah, sucks.
Rav Nosson has this idea about Pulos Mishtanos. I'll just summarize it quickly, then we'll look at a couple lines in here. That the week, the 6 days of creation, Monday through Friday, Sunday through Friday, that's made up of Pulos Mishtanos, separate actions. And then Shabbos is like a yichud. And if you think about it, even just like Lamaisa, like, you know, during the week, we're like very much doing one thing in order to do the next thing, and like we got to get the groceries before we, you know, do this, and then get the kid to sleep on time. All that good stuff. But Shabbos is like Shabbos. Shabbos is like so chill. Like Shabbos doesn't matter what's happening. It's just Shabbos. And he says that you need to bring the light of Shabbos into the week. That you should be mamshechit onto the 6 days of creation in order to reveal the unity of those Pulos Mishtanos of the week, and that like brings that about like a giloy of Achdus. In of itself, an awesome idea. You should check it out. Not like essentially understand the every piece of it right now, but what he's really talking about here also is shor v'chamor, which is the kilai behema, that you're not allowed to work a shor and a chamor together, we're talking about during the 6 days, you're not allowed to work a shore and a chamor together on a field. That's kilai behema. It's the mixing of behemoths. You can't do that. He says, why can't you do that? He says because really you have to understand the unbelievable uniqueness of each creation, and by using both creations for the same purpose, you're almost like saying like, oh, whatever, they're the same, so let's just use them for the same thing, right? That's like a limitation of the uniqueness of Hashem's Arin Cheke. And I think what he's saying is that if we really look deeply, every tiny thing in the world we would see, this is like a very ideal level, but we would see that everything is unique to infinity, and that we could use this for we could make the world a crazy place, like awesome different things, doing all types of different things in like a very unique way. So let's look at this. I think in the first paragraph there's like a little line there. Vayideze shemamshichna kedusha shel Shabbos le'sheish simei chol. Vayideze nisgal achdus hapashut yisbarach ki b'sheish simei chol. Hein pa'ulos mishtanos sheb'cholim neva pa'ulos mishuna. Every day something different was created in creation. Yeah. So, and everything seems separate from the sheish simei chol. So we have to be mamshich this kedusha of Shabbos into the Yimei Chol to reveal that really this is all from Hashem. This is all one thing. It's all coming from one singular source. This is beyond comprehension. This is what Rav Nosson says, and this is from also inspired from Rav Nachman Tinyana Beis, that it's beyond our comprehension to realize the uniqueness and individuality of each pe'ula mishtana from the 6 days of the week. Shabbos is this emuna in the yichud, emunas hayichud, that we believe that all the crazy things that happen during the week really are as if they were Shabbos. Like everything's supposed to be. Everything is everything's connected. Everything's happening for a reason, etc., etc. Let's skip down now. Talk about kilai behema.
It seems like the absolute thing.
No.
Because everything's supposed to be Shabbos, and it shouldn't matter if we're working the donkey and the ox together, because we call that for Shabbos.
No, it's a problem. Oh, you're saying from Sheish Simei Bereishis.
I want to say that really everything Sheish Simei Bereishis is really just
right. So that's the proof of the paradox that we have to talk about. We have to talk about what is this paradox that, on the one hand, they are separate. You can't work them together. On the other hand, we have to realize that everything is from Hashem, and it's one.
I think it's now realizing that their separateness is what makes them one.
That's what we're going to say.
The Shabbos is let each thing be its own.
Just hold on. That's mamash it. Very good. 5 points, Micah. Mark it down. It was obvious, where we're going. These are very posh ideas. I'm not trying to say anything crazy. Even though it's impossible, it's mamish impossible to understand. How could it be? Shor v'chamor. They're the same thing. Just work them together with the plow. Let's let's get done with this field, and we'll be done for the night. But this is keneged seichel anoshi that we don't get it. These things are infinitely unique. We have no idea. We have no ability to ascertain, to really to grasp the fact that to understand the wonders of Hashem's creations. Rakli smoch al emuna. Okay, and we're talking about the whole chabura now. We're talking about the ability to affirm the individual uniqueness of your friend, and how radically different he might be from you. It's actually beyond comprehension, and we can't grasp this. We have to have this emuna. That it's almost like through this recognition that Hashem is infinite, everything was created out in Cheke, that like that I guess what I'm trying to say is like what I tried to start with is that like we don't really. There's almost like this natia to say we are similar and we should think similarly, and like there's this yetzer hara to agree with your friend, like you're talking about anything. There's a yetzer hara to agree. There's a much higher level. That's disagreeing respectfully to make the conversation interesting. Like disagree with your friend and be okay with that, and learn about the uniqueness of your friend or your wife, and learn about the uniqueness about a shor and a chamor, and learn how to use those things in an individual way, and then you can reveal, paradoxically, you can reveal the oneness of Hashem, that Hashem is infinite. Because when and he'll say later in the Torah that like when you start to pair things up, that things are the same, you're causing that thing to be manifest in its klipos, and it's getting chiyus from the klipos, meaning that you're limiting creation. It's like connected the whole ratzon of creation when you're trying to force yourself to mold with a certain group, or you're trying to force your friend, etc. I think everybody understands at this point. And then just at the end of Eric Fromm, and the last thing, organic growth is possible only under the condition of supreme respect for the peculiarity of the self, of other persons as well as our own self. This respect for and cultivation of the uniqueness of the self is the most valuable achievement of human culture, and it is this very achievement that is in danger today. Okay, loving someone else, just to sum up, loving someone else means I can say, wow, this person is peculiar. I'm in a conversation right now with someone that is peculiar. I love that. Let me find out more about his peculiarity and take interest in his development as a person. And I think if we do that, then we'll be very good to see Hashem in his infinite manifestations.